Hello everybody, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and welcome back to the collection video. Last time we did the first half of my PS2 collection, and I stopped it short because it was a very long video, and I needed to edit it all and, get it out for people. But there is a part 2, because my PS2 collection is pretty large, and I wanted to discuss some more today. It's been a little bit because I had to change my set, move things around, but we're back, we're ready to go, and let's talk about some more PS2 games. So last time we left off with Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and those are two of my favorite games of all time. I could say a lot more about them than I did in the video, but Kingdom Hearts is a series that's near and dear to my heart. I adore it, I love it, despite all the convolution and whatnot, so I figure, it's fitting that we ended the last video on it. But next up we have some interesting choices. Games that I just picked up randomly, games that are unique, and stuff that have been with me for a while. First one we're going to talk about, LEGO Star Wars. I mean, I think this speaks for itself. LEGO Star Wars is one of my childhood games. It's one of those games that I played to pieces. It was the first LEGO game I ever had, and I fell in love with it. It's one of those games where it's fun, it's funny, you can pick it up easily, pick it up and play, and I've loved LEGO games ever since. And God, even though these were through were these the original trilogy? Yeah, these were the original trilogy. I'm trying to remember because it's been forever since I played this, but just getting to play through some of the sequences of events. I was a huge Star Wars kid, so I loved Star Wars. So LEGO Star Wars is near and dear to my heart, and ever since I started getting more and more LEGO games, I love them. I think they're fun, fantastic games. Everyone should pick up and at least try one of these because they're very good. The next two games may surprise you. My collection is a little bit weird, a little bit oddball, but we have Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I was a huge fan of Lord of the Rings as a kid, and the Christmas that I got by PS2, one of the games I got in addition to Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts was Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. My dad's friend Mr. Nathan gave it to me because he knew I was really, really big into Lord of the Rings. And, I had a blast with these two games. I've never played The Fellowship. I hear it's very different, but the Two Towers and Return of the King, both these are actually really good licensed video games. They're not perfect. There are certain things that are a little bit repetitive about them, but they're fun. And I have very fond memories of playing these as a kid. I would like to actually go back and play through them again, because I think these deserve a second look. But these are definitely licensed games that, took away a lot of the stigma for me, because everyone's all like, oh, licensed games, they're not really good, they're cynical and blah blah blah. But between this and Enter the Matrix and a few other games that I enjoyed playing as a kid regardless of the quality, I'm like, you know what, I'm having a good time regardless. And so I'm gonna have to take a look at this again, because I remember really loving these as a kid, even more than Enter the Matrix, but that was because it was so bad it was good. It was so bad it was amazing. This next game I haven't played yet, and I really want to. And I got it mostly because I was big into JRPGs. I had heard a lot about Shadow Hearts and a few other games throughout the years, so I'm just like, alright, let's take a look at some of these other JRPGs that are in Game Informer and EGM and all these magazines that I used to read as a kid. Magna Carta Tears of Blood was reviewed very well, and I got I think it was the collector's edition. It came with a couple other things, but I remember getting it because it stood out to me. I don't remember playing much of it, but I do remember enjoying my time with it. And it's just one of those things where you have a bunch of games and you go get about, you know, trying to play through them all and you don't have enough time. But I did play through a little bit of it, and I enjoyed what I played. But it's Atlus. Atlus makes really good RPGs. I'm a big fan of Atlus, and I'm going to get to this sometime, but this stood out to me. Maybe it was the gigantic boobs on the cover, I don't know, but I remember looking at this in the game store, I'm like, alright, I'll try it out. It's the same reason I got Xenosaga. I'm like, it looked cool, let's try it out. And I want to play through this at some point, but I have not quite beaten it just yet. Maybe for a video. Now, my friends, we have something truly special. I've talked about my love of the Matrix as a kid in the previous video, and how Enter the Matrix kind of turned me into the gamer that I am. Matrix: The Path of Neo, to me, solidified that licensed video games can be good. Whereas Enter the Matrix was so bad it's amazing, even though they had the ambition, Matrix: The Path of Neo is really, really good. It is one of the best licensed video games I've ever played. And I have a story for this one. I played this one Christmas. I think it was like a couple of years into the life of the PS2. And I was huge into the Matrix. I had all the movies. I was like all about it. I was super into the Matrix. And I asked both my mom and my Aunt Gail for this and the strategy guide, and both of them gave it to me. And it was a big to-do because they both spent a lot of money on it. But I have this and I have the strategy guide. And this proved to be a really amazing experience because not only do you get to play as Neo finally, but in addition to everything else, the tutorial is the stuff from the movie. You play through all the different movies, and there's an alternate ending to the entire Matrix trilogy by the Wachowskis. And just everything that this game did, it did well in my opinion. Is it perfect? No. It could, you know, it could stand to be a little bit better in certain aspects. But compared to Enter the Matrix, this is a masterpiece. And this told me, hey, when people put a lot of time and effort, they can make a good game. And the Wachowski siblings really cared about what they were trying to make. And yes, Enter the Matrix was probably the most expensive video game ever made at the time, but that's because they were trying to make it as a movie. And then they went back to the drawing board and they made this, and this was great. And I mean, I've been a fan of the Matrix for a while. I think part of it is because the Matrix, if you look back, it's very trans-positive. And, I mean, the Wachowski siblings both transitioned, so it's like, there's a very big incentive for me to like this series, and I've highly enjoyed Matrix from the start. It makes you think. It is a little bit pretentious, but it's fun. I love the setting. I love this game. You should play it. No one talks about this. It's good. Alright, we're getting through the M's. We have a few more. Now these ones I got used. After a while, GameStop starts putting like PS2 in used, and I just went through and rifled through ones that I was looking for, stuff that I was like, maybe we'll check out. I haven't played Max Payne or Max Payne 2, but I've heard a lot of good press from Max Payne. A lot of people say like this was one of the franchises that really put, I think it was bullet time on the map, but Max Payne gets a lot of praise for its story, and I really definitely need to go back and play through them. Like, these were ones where like, I know it's a classic, I know I should play this, so I put in my collection for something later down the line. So I haven't actually played through them, and these are ones that definitely need new cases. Enigma Customs, is the one who's making a lot of my custom cases, and it'd be good to get one that's not like, you know, it doesn't show the pre-owned sticker and all that stuff. But these are considered classics. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Max Payne is all about. I know it's about a loose cannon cop who doesn't play by the rules, so but that's about it. And we'll see how that goes. Alright, in my PS1 video I talked about Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is a series that I had not really gotten into until my friend had given me a game, and then I went back to Metal Gear Solid 1. Well, I don't have a lot of memories with Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. However, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is the game that got me into Metal Gear. And this is the case. It's really weird, like, it's this thin-ass little, like, it's not even a game case, I don't even know, but my friend Julia, for a birthday present, gave me this. Because we were really good friends, and they're like, hey, it's your birthday, let me get you something, Metal Gear Solid 3, and I'm like, it was very special to them. It was a game that they adored, very special in terms of how much they loved it. And I played through this, and I fell in love. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is like playing through a James Bond film, and I'm not just talking about like the opening theme. It is one of my favorite games of all time simply because the gameplay and story work perfectly in cohesion for Metal Gear Solid. I like Metal Gear Solid 1, because I played 3 then 1. And while I do like Metal Gear Solid 1 and what it does, Metal Gear Solid 3 is just, to me, a perfect mesh of Hideo's storytelling and the gameplay and the bosses and the characters, and just everything works about this. I couldn't put it down. I was so engrossed in this story. Unfortunately, afterwards, I tried to play... I played through 1, I liked it. I tried to play 2, there was something about it that it didn't grab me. And it wasn't even... I didn't even get to the Raiden segment. So, I don't know what it was, but I do have the Legacy Collection, and I want to go back and try this out and see, because I know a lot of people say this is the best game in the franchise because of the story. But in my opinion, Metal Gear Solid 3, man, Metal Gear Solid 3 is everything that I wanted out of a video game. It makes you think, it has all these twists and turns, it's not hard to follow, it's easy to pick up and play. You can manipulate some of the bosses, like at the end, where if you just wait a week in-game, he dies of old age. Like, there's so many little cool things about it. So yeah, if I had to recommend any Metal Gear Solid, it would be 3, because 3 is the one that I have beaten the most, and is the one that I love the most. So yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3, worth your time. This next game is another quirky one that I saw on the pages of Game Informer, and I love the artwork so much that I picked it up. Odins Fear is a game that is gorgeous. It is 2D battles, and it's all about like Norse mythology, and you have different characters through a JRPG. It's very different because instead of like going through a 3D environment, you have this 2D circles and you go around and defeat enemies in a 2D plane, but you can choose where to go. Like, it's interesting in the setup of it. But I had a little bit of trouble with the combat when I tried to play it, and I put it down for a little bit, but I always will love the artwork of it. And Odins Fear Luftrazer, the PS3 or PS4 port that I have, is something that enhances it in many ways. I do want to get to actually playing through this, but I think this is a lot like Shadow of the Colossus in that when I first picked up Shadow of the Colossus, the controls were hard for me to get into, and I had to wait a little bit, but once I finally got past that first boss, I'm like, this is amazing. And I feel like Odins Fear will be that game. It's not the most pristine controls, but it is an experience that I want to go through. So if you can't get into the PS2 version, the PS4 version, Luftrazer, is supposedly fixing a lot of the control issues. But I definitely want to get into this this is one for the future that I definitely want to get back to. Odins Fear, hear great things. This next game is special. And I know I've said that a lot because a lot of these games are special to me, and I choose my games mostly for PS2 for specific reasons. A lot of them that I've kept around are very special to me, and the ones that I haven't gotten to yet are ones that I either know are classics or that I'm going to get to because I'm interested in what they have to say. But this one, Okami, it's hard to pick a top game on the PS2, but this is up there. Okami was a game that I got for the artwork alone, but then I found out that it was a Zelda-esque JRPG, and I fell in love. The idea of Okami is you're playing as a wolf god Amaterasu, and the entire artwork is like an ink wash painting from Japan, and it is one of the most gorgeous games I've ever played. And you use brushes in the environment, and you gain power-ups like Zelda, so in different like brush powers. But it's a very long game full of Japanese culture and Japanese mythology, and it's so long, but it's so good. And I've heard people say it's like 3 games put into one, but that's what it is. It is going through a bunch of different Japanese folk tales, and the ideas present in it are just so wonderfully executed. It's fun, it's funny, the combat's interesting, the platforming, the puzzles, the story, just there's so many interesting things about it. I bought this game so many times. I bought it again on the Wii, and I just felt like the brush strokes weren't working for me. I've heard people say it's more precise on the Wii, but I prefer the PS2, and then I got Okami HD for the PS4, and I played through it again because I love it. This is one of my favorite games of all time. Musically, artistically, this is proof that games are indeed art. And just the way they go about the story, in the folklore, the stuff that I learned about Japanese history and tales, the final boss, just there's so many good memories that I have with this game. And if any game I have talked about in either of these videos have piqued your interest, I'm telling you, forget those, get this. Okami is 1 in a million. And there is a sequel that I haven't played. It's in my collection, Okami Den. Studio Clover. I believe Studio Clover went and became, the studio behind Bayonetta, I want to say. It's because Studio Clover disbanded, but then they became something else, and I'm pretty sure they're the ones who did Bayonetta and a few other games, but I could be wrong about that. I don't have anything in front of me. But Okami, go. This is art. It is literally art. Okay, so this next batch of games, I really don't have much to say about it. This was another one of, I heard a lot of things about it, and I saw them in a bargain bin at GameStop, and I got as many as I could because I heard good things. Onimusha, and all of the sequels, Dawn of Dreams, 1, 2, and 3, I got them here. I actually have not played any of these, but like I said, I found them in a bargain bin at GameStop. They were cheap, and I'd heard good things about this franchise, and I was a fan of Capcom. Like, I like Resident Evil, I like a lot of those types of games, and I like Japan, I like Japanese mythology, as we discussed with Okami. So I picked this up, and I figured, you know, they're all here, I might as well get them. And I know, like, Some Call Me Johnny talks about these, like, very fondly as, you know, very much in love with these. I don't really know anything about Onimusha, but it just grabbed me. So I have all of them. I'm going to play them. I will play them. But as of right now, I have not actually touched them yet, and I'm looking forward to see where this rabbit hole goes. This next group of games will make you guys happy, because I know people love this franchise, and people have been wanting me to play these for a very long time. First of all, we have Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 Fez. I have separate stories for this and for Persona 4. Now, when it comes to Fez, I actually got this over at Game Crazy. I regularly shopped over at Game Crazy because they had weird games that weren't at GameStop. And I'm just like, okay, let's take a look around. And the cashier showed me this. And it came with a soundtrack. And one rule of thumb that I have always found, a game that comes with a soundtrack is usually really good. So I picked this up. And I played a little bit of it and I was intrigued by it. I was like invested. But I didn't get very far because there were certain things that were kind of throwing me off about the game. And it's not that I didn't like it, it's just that I was like, I don't know, maybe I need a guide for this, but I enjoyed it. And so I'm just like, okay. But then I saw Persona 4. And I started playing it. And the opening theme immediately, like, I fell in love. Like, this game, this is one of my favorite games of all time, Persona 4, and I haven't completed it yet. I got to one of the final dungeons, and it's one, the last boss I remember was like this demon baby head guy, and I was a little bit burnt out because their randomized dungeons are a little bit much for me. I don't like randomized dungeons. I prefer Persona 5, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I have actually completed. And Persona 5 has personalized dungeons where everything is planned and plotted, and it shows how much better and less monotonous it can be with this. But the thing I love about Persona 4 is the characters and the story, and there's so much that kept me going about this. Just the opening theme for this is gold. Like, I love the music in this, and the music and opening theme in Persona 3 is amazing. I will go to bat in saying that Persona 3 has just as good music, but I was able to get into Persona 4 much easier. I still need to go back and actually play through Persona 3, but 4 gripped me, and I adore it, and I love it, and I played through most of this, and I played through most of Golden. I love Persona. It is so good. And Teddy is a good character, damn it. Stan Teddy. We stand Teddy in this dojo. Although the fox is a better animal companion. And Morgana. Morgana's amazing. But I need to go back and play through this. It's not that it wasn't good. It just, there's certain mechanics that threw me off back when I tried to play it. And Persona 4 is just easier to pick up and play. I love Persona. Shadow, the true self, I love it. I love Persona. Alright, so, you know how I have a lot of licensed games in my collection? This one I just got just because I was curious. Peter Jackson's King Kong. And you know what? I like Peter Jackson's King Kong, but looking back, it is a little bit pretentious. Kong Skull Island is a far better movie, but I adored it back then. I'm like, you know what? Let's see if this is any good. Apparently this is not good. But I got Peter Jackson's King Kong because I like to go through licensed video game months every now and again. Pick up a few things and I'm like, is this good? Is this bad? Let's see what this is all about. And I really enjoyed the movie, so I got the game. I don't know if it's any good. I haven't heard good things. But, I mean, it can't be any worse than Terminator Salvation was. Because that was a stinker. So this next one is a little bit different because I am a huge fan of Prince of Persia. But for the longest time, I had Prince of Persia on GameCube. Sands of Time was a GameCube game for me. So, and I don't even think I still have it anymore. I think it's one of those ones that I sold back when I was young and dumb and decided to sell my games. But Sands of Time, really good game, but I don't think I have it anymore. I'll have to see in my collection. But I switched over to PS2 for Warrior Within and the Two Thrones, and I said that backwards. Warrior Within and the Two Thrones. Which, that always gets me because Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, Two Thrones, like, I always confuse the names in my head. But when I found out there was continuation for Sands of Time, I'm like, I ate it up, and I was all about PS2 back then. I didn't have a GameCube. So, I got this on PS2. And The Warrior Within, it's not good. Look, the combat's better, the story is all over the place, but it's so edgy and emo and in your face, and I tried to stream it a while back, and it's one of those games where I'm just like, man, the 90s called. They want your everything back. It has too much edge, and I like what they were trying to go for. You know, Jak 2, they wanted to be darker, they wanted to be edgy. It was like, I stand alone, inside I stand alone. Like, that's, and it lost a little bit of something in the transition. I adore the Sands of Time. It's not perfect, and there are problems that I do have with it, but I think it aged better than this. But The Two Thrones, my friends, is my favorite Prince of Persia video game. The Two Thrones, to me, is, let's kind of ignore a little bit of what happened with Warrior Within, return to the Sands of Time roots, do it and bookend it and tie everything together. And it's like, okay, let's make it so the Sands of Time didn't happen, but the prince remembers the Sands of Time happened, and he has to go back to the kingdom and fix everything and make it right. And the bosses are great. The Dark Prince actually is interesting. The platforming is still fantastic. It just, for me, it's a perfect meshing. The problem with the first Prince of Persia was that the Sands of Time had no good bosses. All the bosses were bad. And they were pretty much a joke. And while the combat was good, a lot of it was, if you did one combo, you could defeat anything. But the combat was improved in Warrior Within, and they perfected the formula with Two Thrones. I firmly believe that Two Thrones is the best in the Sands of Time trilogy. Now, I do like the Forgotten Sands. I think it has the best platforming, but the Forgotten Sands has been largely forgotten because it was the movie license game and nobody played it but me. But yeah, I will go on a limb. The Two Thrones is a fantastic game, and it really delves into the prince's character, and the final boss, like the way the book ends the entire trilogy, it's worth it. But we could do with less edge. No more edge, please. No more edgy the hedgy. Alright, so this next one, I've actually played a couple years back, and I didn't play as a child, and I got it because I wanted it in my collection. I was intrigued by it, but I never played it until I got the PS2 on PS4. Psychonauts by Tim Schafer, a psychic adventure. I was always intrigued by this cover, by the idea of Psychonauts, and I know exactly why I bought it. I think I went to several different GameStops looking around just to find a copy, because everyone was telling me that this was really good. And then I just found this randomly one day. I'm like, you know what? I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Because you rarely see a used version of this game. And this was a very good find. But I never got around to playing it much because I had other games that I was playing on the PS2 or the PS3 at the time. But then PS2 games on PS4 happened, and I played the enhanced version, and I fell in love. Psychonauts is a game that people should play. It is a collectathon action-adventure game. But it's very different because you go in people's minds and you collect things, and you learn about them. There is a very good story in this game. And while I do think it meanders around the asylum levels because there's like 4 people there, you have to go in their mind all at the same time to progress. It kind of halts the pace of the game. Even with that, like the game is hilarious. I mean, you have God, what's his name from. Raz is played by the guy from Angry Beavers, and he does a lot of really like big cartoony roles, and he's amazing. But you have like the stuff with the milkman. I'm the milkman. I deliver the milk well. Like there's so many funny things that happen in this game, and it's like it's trying to be a collectathon platformer that doesn't take itself seriously, but everything upgrades the character. The more psychic abilities, the better you become. And while the hub world is a little bit confusing at first, which was kind of what initially put me off when I first picked it up, it's not that hard to figure out where to go and what to do, and I had a blast playing through this. Psychonauts is a worthy adventure. Just the final level, the meat circus, was a little bit much. It was a little bit glitchy and hard to do things under a time limit. I think I could have done without the meat circus personally, but this is still a fantastic game. Highly recommend it. My friends, we have hit another special game. This is a game that 1 week we had a week off of school, and I spent this entire week playing this game, and I didn't get tired of it. I had the time of my life. I put over 100 hours, the most I had ever put into any video game at that time. And nobody talks about it, but I remember seeing this game in Game Informer and loving the artwork and thinking, let's try this out. Radiata Stories. Nobody talks about this game. But I picked it up, I picked up the strategy guide, and I had a week where I played through the game. And this game speaks to me. This was my Kingdom Hearts before Kingdom Hearts, because it has a similar kind of battle system. It's a real-time, active-time battle system, but it's a little bit more strategic, and it has a little bit different story. It's set in medieval times, and your father was a dragon slayer, and you want to grow up and become a dragon slayer yourself. But there's a split in the middle of the game where you can go and recruit magical creatures and fight on the side of the dragons, or you can fight on the side of the humans. And you can recruit over 100 characters. This was a Square Enix game, by the way, but I believe Tri-Ace was also behind it, because Valkyrie from Valkyrie Profile is an unlockable character. And once you get like the best characters in the game, like I went through both routes to recruit the best characters in the game, and let me just say, it was amazing. The secret dungeon where you fight like the boss monsters, the rush against the dragons, oh my god, like you get to fight all the different dragons, and it's just so fun. This is like, it's like Tales meets Kingdom Hearts. If you're a fan of Tales of, that's what it is. Like, I hold this game very near and dear to my heart, and I haven't played it much since, but I have such fond memories of Radiata Stories, such fond memories indeed, and I love these characters, I love this world, and I love the dilemma of, is it right to kill these magical creatures, because they're people too, and you can recruit them in your party, and you bet I took the side of the magical creatures first. But then, on the other side, you get to fight all the dragons. It is... this is a good game. Nobody talks about it, but play Radiata Stories. It is unsung Square Enix gem. Alright, we're slowly working our way to the end of the collection, because we're in the R's now. And I'm trying not to keep too much of your attention with this next one, because I can probably sum up my feelings pretty quickly. But, I love Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. And the funny thing is, my parents bought me Going Commando first. And, I had asked for the first one, and I looked at it, I'm like, that's a second game. Because I didn't initially know it was a second game until I looked at the box art, and I'm like, you know what? I'll go back and play the first one. And the first one's good, don't get me wrong, the first one's good. But then I played the second one, and the second one is really damn good. And then the third one came out, and Up Your Arsenal perfected the formula. And it's just like, this is what action platforming is all about. And I'm ashamed that I didn't get into it sooner, because I was big into Jak and Daxter first, and I think I played Sly Cooper before I even touched Ratchet. And for a while, Ratchet was like not even my favorite of the trilogy. But after playing through these games, like, I love these two games so much. It's fun, it's funny, it's like, it takes mascot action platforming to a new level, and the upgrading your guns, the types of guns, like you have a gun that turns people into sheep. You have villains like Dr. Nefarious, who's a robot who's just the most hilarious thing in the world. And, well, we do have the black sheep Deadlocked. I'm one of the few who actually loves Deadlocked. I love the arena-style battles of the previous games, and that's what this game is. It's the arena battles. I had no issues with it. I don't really care about the story. The story's a little bit but, this is still a good game. But I'm a huge fan of Ratchet and Clank. 2 and 3 are the best of the original quadrilogy. But the first one is still good. And I think the thing I like about the first one is that Ratchet's kind of a jerk. Ratchet is, he doesn't want to save the world. He doesn't feel like he has to save the world. He doesn't want to prove it to anybody. But Clank changes him and molds him for the better. The first game takes him a bit, but the second and third game are where he gets to be a better character, and I love the arc that he takes in this quadrilogy. I have the enhanced collection for PS3, and, it's more of the same. It's so fun, and I'm so glad that they actually released Deadlocked digitally on the PS3, so I could actually complete the collection, and have all the games with trophy support. Because, yeah, I know people don't like this game, but it's still good, damn it. I don't think Ratchet has ever really come up with a bad game aside from Quest for Booty. But Quest for Booty was a demo, it's a glorified demo, so I don't really count it. The weakest might be the first Future game. But still, even then, it's still a fun time. I just wish they didn't have the 6-axis motion controls. I'm a huge fan of Ratchet and Clank, if you can't tell by now. Ratchet and Clank is my favorite of the Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter trilogy of mascots for the PS2, and Ratchet still exists today, and I can't wait to play Rift Apart, and it's gonna be awesome. I love Ratchet and Clank. Alright, so this next one is a little bit different, because I haven't actually played these games before, but I really do want to. I had heard, and I had been reading in the pages of Game Informer. I was a huge fan of Game Informer back in the day, to learn about new games that I hadn't seen before, hadn't heard too much about. And one of the ones that I saw that really struck me was Shadow Hearts. And because it had historical figures like Francis Bacon, but it was a JRPG, and I didn't know anything about it. And now I've seen the Smartest Morons videos on Shadow Hearts, and I'm very intrigued. I want to play them. So I tracked this one down, and these two sequels, Covenant and From the New World, they need new cases, but I have all the games. I got it from a retro game store in Salem, Massachusetts, and I got them specifically because I had no idea what was gonna happen with these games, but any game that has Francis Bacon and historical figures in a JRPG, I'm like, I'm intrigued. Color me intrigued. So, I don't know a lot about Shadow Hearts, but I want to play them. So this is on my list of stuff that I want to review at some point because I'm intrigued. And now, I couldn't have a complete collection without Shadow of the Colossus. I love this game. And like I said before, I was turned off initially because of the controls. I had issues getting through the first Colossus, but once the controls clicked with me, this game is definitely one of my top. Because it is so different. You open up in this world and so open and vibrant, and the atmosphere, the feeling of killing each Colossus is second to none. It's all about isolation. You're one man, one tiny, insignificant man against these creatures. And are you right for killing these creatures? It makes you think every step of the way. And the boss fights are so amazing. Every single one is unique and different, and God, like, I have the Shadow of the Colossus PS3 version, and that kept the same controls, but I completed that. But also I have the PS4 version, which changes it up, and I want to see how the controls are improved, because the controls are the biggest thing that people have detriment-wise getting into this game. It's a fantastic game. Music-wise, atmosphere, story, the feeling, the gameplay, but the controls are the biggest problem. So, if you have an issue with this version, get the remake. It'll be so much worth it, because this game is a certified classic. Everyone should play it. Now, these next two are games that I have not played. And you're probably sensing a theme, but I got these because these were classics and everyone told me to buy them. And I need to set aside in October where I can play through these on Halloween, because Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 are considered two of the best games in the franchise. People say the first Silent Hill is iffy because of the cult, but Silent Hill 2, everyone says, is amazing. And I've only played a little bit of it. I was a little bit confused where to go, but I was younger then, and I wasn't really, like, playing of my own volition. I was more just curious to see if I liked it, and I like the atmosphere, I like the feeling of it, but I definitely need to get into these two games because, well, one, the box art in this one is a little bit weird. I don't know what's up with the girl, but this haunting atmosphere, like, it makes you wonder what's going on in here. And I know it's like more psychological, surreal horror than Resident Evil. It's more psychological stuff, and I want to get into that. I just haven't had the time to, but this is on my list. I do have the PS3 remake, and I know that they took away the fog and whatnot. So I want to try to play these first before I approach the remake, because I want to see what people are talking about, if that is actually viable. From what I understand, they used the limitations of the consoles at the time with the fog where you can't see where everything is to make it more eerie, more atmospheric. But I don't know too much about that. All I know is these are two classics, I needed them in my collection, and 1 October I will play them. I promise. So this next trilogy should surprise no one if you've been watching my videos, if you know me, if you've been watching these collection videos, because I've mentioned these before. I like Jak and Daxter, I love Ratchet and Clank, I love Sly Cooper. And Sly Cooper is one of those franchises I didn't even think that I would really enjoy when I first saw it. It was one of those things that I actually kind of put off because I wasn't sure. Like, I had played Jak 2 at a friend's house, so I'm like, okay, I know I like this. Ratchet and Clank, I had heard good things about, so I know I'm gonna like this. But I saw the trailers for Sly Cooper, and I'm like, let's try it. Let's give it a try. But it took me a while before I even popped it into my PlayStation. But when I did, Sly Cooper, it's one of the best simple platform games that I've ever played. And each game tried to up the ante. And instead of making things darker and edgier, kind of like Ratchet and Clank didn't do this too much, but Jak did, instead of going the more mature route, what they did for the sequel is they just added more mechanics. It's less simple, it's more about heist missions, it's more fun. And then for the third game, they just refined what already worked. My favorite is Sly 3. Sly 3 I think doesn't get enough love. I think it perfects the formula, and Sly 1 is the perfect blend for me of just simple enough, but not overtly simple. People can easily pick it up and play it, and I think everyone should at least play the first Sly Cooper, see if you like it. It's about a thief. You're a gentleman thief who comes from a long line of thieves and is taking down other criminals. It's as simple as that. It's like Ocean's 11 the game, and as you go, you get more and more people into your band of thieves, and it's just fun. I love it. I don't know if it's for everyone. It's very simple, but if you like thievery, if you like heist movies, I think you'll like these games. Sly 4 we'll talk about later, but I want there to be another Sly game. Unfortunately, only Ratchet and Clank is still going strong out of all these franchises. Jak and Daxter had middling efforts after a while, and Sly Cooper had the brilliant Sly 4, which I will defend. But Ratchet and Clank's still going strong, so bring back the others, please. So if you've been watching this video for a while, from part 1, you know that I like licensed games. It's not a secret by now, I like licensed games. Part of the reason I like licensed games is Spider-Man 2. The first Spider-Man game was actually pretty good. I remember playing it at a friend's house, but it had issues in certain aspects. It was definitely hard to complete, to get past certain parts. But I got Spider-Man 2 when the movie came out. This was one of my favorite movies at the time, and I still love it to this day. But this game does licensed games right. It is one of the earliest games where you actually felt like Spidey when you were slinging around. It invented a very interesting new combo system that the Arkham series would later refine, and then would later go into the later Insomniac Spider-Man in a roundabout way. Spider-Man 2 gives us more than just the movie story for once. It gives us a lot of his rogues galleries. It gives us Mysterio. Mysterio is my favorite Spidey villain. And seeing the effort that they put into this for a PS2 game where they could have just easily given us a licensed cash grab, this is an example of a great licensed video game. Spider-Man 2, it's one of the few Spidey games in my collection. I need to get the first one. I need to get the Spider-Man 3. But this one I know from the get-go I need it in my collection. And while I need to flesh out my collection a little bit more, Spider-Man 2 deserves a place in it. And I think you should check it out too if you're a fan of the movie or the character, because it is very good. Now this next one is a little bit different because I'm not a big fan of stealth games. Or at least I thought I wasn't until I played Metal Gear Solid 3. And I started reading more and more about certain stealth games. Like I read about Hitman and a few of those other types of games that had that stealth bent. And I was like, maybe I should try another series because I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid. Maybe it'll work out. I got Splinter Cell and its sequel, again in a bargain bin at GameStop, because I wanted to see if I liked other stealth games. because this was a series that was long running, that, you know, it kept going. They kept saying, oh, it's a new Splinter Cell, it's this big spy thriller, stealth action game. I need to actually sit down and play it though, but it's one of those ones that everyone was talking about it when I was a kid. When I was in high school, it would be like, oh, the new Splinter Cell, it's like, he's gone rogue this time. It was like the Mission Impossible for video games. There was this new one every so often, and I desperately need to look at these two games, maybe see where the franchise goes from there. But this is on my radar. Other stealth games I want to take a look at. Thus far, though, the only one that I've actually really piqued my interest was Metal Gear Solid. So we're going to see if I can like other games in this vein, but I need to actually play them first. So, I'm a fan of Square Enix, you know this by now. So I bought Star Ocean Till the End of Time because it was another RPG, another JRPG by Square Enix, and I like the box art. I was always searching for new RPGs in the PS2 era, and I really like this game. I haven't gotten far enough into it to really make too much of a judgment call, but I remember playing quite a few hours of this, and I think the opening really sells it. It reminds me a little bit of Xenosaga, and what captivated me there. It's, you know, it's a JRPG, but it's in space, in more futuristic environs, and I put quite a few hours into this game back in the day. I don't remember finishing it, but I'm a sucker for JRPGs. I will play them until the end of time, and I mean, it's Square Enix. I couldn't go wrong at the time with Square Enix. I think there were a few problems with this. It was a little bit slow in places, but it wasn't bad. I remember loving it, but not like adoring it, if that makes sense. It just, I had other games that I wanted to play at the time, but we will get back to Star Ocean eventually, and maybe I'll play the other games, because Star Ocean has a lot of games. So this is another franchise I have in my I like it, but I need to finish it pile. So this game desperately needs a new case, because this is not Stuntman. This is not the original Stuntman. This is Stuntman Ignition. I put the wrong case on it. It needs a better case. It needs a better cover. Trying to find covers for video games, like reasonably like get actual covers to work for the video games, that's a headache and a half, because I've put in, you know, replacement covers for some of my games and they worked perfectly, but trying to find the actual artwork online is a nightmare and a half. There are some good sites that have a bunch of different like cover images, but they don't have everything, and sometimes they're all like buried in the forums. And this is one of those things, because no one cared about the Stuntman franchise, and I'm like, I remember reading so much about Stuntman, because back when Need for Speed was big, back when you know, we had a lot of these interesting car games, there was Stuntman, and it was all about, you know, doing your own stunts. It was different, it was new, and I remember it getting reviewed pretty well. I played this and I liked a part of it. I haven't had the time to really sit down in recent years, but I remember liking it. And I think Stuntman is one of those things that people won't remember years from now. It's like Singularity, or, you know, these games that were good in their time, but no one's going to remember them a few years from now. And it's a shame, because from what I remember, it's a fun old time. It's nothing wow, you know, it's nothing world-shattering, nothing new or reinventing the genre. It's just fun. So, I mean, I give this a tentative recommendation. It's one of those gems that you should look for, but don't spend a lot of money for it. I think I spent too much for 12 bucks, but I definitely think this is one that is overlooked. People need to talk more about Stuntman, maybe reignite the Stuntman franchise, maybe, but no one cares about cars anymore, or car combat. I miss car combat. So, this next one is a little bit different and special, but also I haven't played it before. And it's weird, because I'm a fan of the franchise, but I hear that this is not the best one of the franchise. Tales of Legenda. Now, I started Tales of, which is a series of RPGs, back in Tales of Grace's F. I played a lot of Symphonia. I completely played all of Grace's F, and I played a lot of Xillia. I'm trying to remember, because I played a little bit of Hearts R, I played a little bit of here and there, but I played a little bit of Eternia, the actual Eternia. Tales is a very weird series because it hasn't a lot of popularity in the West. It's huge in Japan, there's a lot of games, but not all of them have really come to our shores. I think Grace's F was the first really, really big one over here, and when they had Berseria, like, they started getting more here with Zestiria. But people have their favorite, people have their least favorite. A lot of people talk about Tales of the Abyss. Symphonia is always mentioned. I love Symphonia. And people always talk about some of the newer ones like Xillia and Grace's F. But when they talk about this one, they say it's not very good. I wish I could say anything about it, because I don't know anything about it. I got it because I wanted to start my Tales collection, and I saw it. It was very cheap. But not a lot of people say good things about it. And it's just like, it pains me because I've seen games that people don't like become enjoyable for me, and I don't want to write them off. So, Tales of Legenda could be good, for all I know. I really hope it's good. But people only want Tales of Destiny and Tales of, well, the American Tales of Destiny 2, which is Eternia. And they want the Cramel system, and they want this and that, but I just love the battle system in Tales games. It's very active. It's on a 2D plane, but you can move around all these characters and fight like in Kingdom Hearts. So it's my kind of system. The stories are great. I just hope this one is good. These two games I got out of curiosity. I didn't know if they were any good. We have the Godfather of the game and the Warriors. And from all accounts, these two are actually legitimately good licensed video games. I played a bit of the Warriors, and I have to say it was fun beat-em-up action. But I had never seen the Warriors before. And I know like little references and some of the lines, but I hadn't seen the movie before playing the game. This is fun, but I would like more context before I actually go back to it. But from what I understand, the Warriors is an underrated gem. It's not great, but for a licensed game, it's really good. The Godfather of the game, I haven't put any time into, but I also heard very good things about. It's from the same people who gave us, God, and I'm blanking on the name. It's from Visceral. The same, well, EA Montreal, but it's the same people who brought us Dead Space. And from what I understand, what I remember, this was considered good. I got these out of curiosity. They weren't very expensive. They were pretty cheap. But sometimes you just gotta go out on a limb and try something out. And I definitely think The Warriors is fun. But again, I need more context. And I remember The Godfather being reviewed very well. So, one of these days when we have our licensed video games, licensed Media Limbo episodes, we'll be talking about one of these. But for right now, I consider them pretty good. So, I'm not a huge Tomb Raider fan. But I got Lara Croft Tomb Raider Legend because I liked the movies, I liked getting into the franchise, and I wanted to see what it was all about. And this was probably the wrong place to start the franchise because it has ties to other things going on. But this is a very good game. I remember really enjoying this one. It's you don't really need to know too much going in. It's fun gameplay, it reminds me a little bit of Uncharted. I highly enjoyed it. The only problem is I feel like I really needed to learn more about the lore before diving too far into this game. I don't even know how far into the series this is, but this was my first Tomb Raider. I enjoyed it a lot. I beat the game, I had a lot of fun playing it, but I also kind of wish I knew more. And so perhaps I will go back and play some of the older Tomb Raiders. But this Tomb Raider right here is very good. I had fun. I remember watching the movies alongside it, which probably haven't held up that well. But as a kid, I highly enjoyed Tomb Raider Legend, and I think I would have fun revisiting it today, provided I knew the context for certain things. But it's fun. I love that archaeology, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, puzzle solving, stuff like that. The Indiana Jones type approach to games is what I like. My friends, we are on our final games for the PS2 collection. I told you it would be long, and I have a lot to say about a lot of these games. But this last one, man, we're talking about Xenosaga. Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Wills are Mocked. Xenosaga Episode 2, Jenseits von Gut und Böse. And Xenosaga Episode 3, also Spracht Zarathustra. It's a mouthful, I know. I have a very complicated history with Xenosaga. Before I even knew what Xenogears was, and before I even fell in love with Xenogears, my friend showed me Xenosaga, and I remember the opening of it. I remember just popping it in and the opening and seeing how it goes from the people finding this gateway, almost like a monolith, and it flashes forward hundreds of years into the future and everyone's in space. And it's that space type thing that really got me. But also, I remember having this before Final Fantasy X and being impressed because the voice acting was better than Final Fantasy X. It might have been that my friend had the game and then I saw this and I was just blown away by the voice acting, by the cinematography in terms of the CGI. It is a very, very good looking game. This, it plays well, it has so many secrets, it has so much intrigue. It had Seth Green, and I was a big fan of Robot Chicken at the time. So you have this huge adventure, this huge mystery of what is going on in space and how it connects to the beginning and to the end and who the Gnosis are. It has a lot of religious imagery and symbolism and all this stuff that really got into me. But it's an incomplete adventure because this was planned to be the first part of a 6-stage game. I played and completed this and I adored it. And then I popped in Xenosaga Episode 2 and the problems started happening. And I don't want to hate you, but the visuals are the biggest thing that turned me off from the start. They took away so much of what good it was. Like, Xenosaga Episode 1 feels like an interactive anime. And the style that they were going for, this looks ugly. This looks really bad, and they stripped a lot of what made the original game good from this game. So I didn't play much of it. And then, because the second game didn't do well, the third game almost never came out. But I got it, and I haven't played it yet because I never beat 2. But this was supposed to be 6 games, and it was shortened to 3. And I adore the first game so much because it is intriguing, it tries so much, it's so ambitious. But then it kind of falls flat on its face in the second game. And it's like, I want a remake. I want a collection of how these games were originally envisioned. But I don't think it's ever gonna happen. It's a shame because like Xenoblade and the like spiritual sequels are doing really good. Xenoblade, Xenoblade Chronicles, and all that stuff, like everyone loves those. Well, most people love those. Some people are just indifferent or whatever, but a lot of people really enjoy those games. It's a big franchise. And I kind of wish if they had the rights, they could go back and remake these. Because these are, well, the first one is a good game. It's really good. And I feel like what the detriment for the following games were a lot of budget cuts. They were too ambitious. They were trying to do too much. And that's why I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Xenosaga. And I definitely want to do a huge video about the series because Xenosaga is very near and dear to my heart. It's one of the first RPGs I remember adoring. And then the sequel just fell flat on its face. So please, if anyone out there is watching who has the rights to Xenosaga, please give us a remake collection because that would be my greatest wish. Or at least give us a Xenogears remake, because Xenogears was another one that was really, really good, but the second disc apparently the budget cuts show. The person who did the franchise apparently had problem with budgets, and it shows. But sometimes your vision exceeds the budget, and I really wish I could have seen what these games would have been if they had all the money in the world, but you never know. With that being said, that is my PS2 collection. PlayStation 2 I love, but it's not even my biggest collection in the world, and you've seen how long I went with this. So we're gonna take our time. I have a lot of different collections. We went through PS1 and PS2. We're gonna try to go through a smaller one next time, but I have very fond memories with the PlayStation 2. It was in my household and it was a fixture for a while. It was what got me into gaming. It was what made me see games as more than just fun little distractions. Games were fully voice acted, they could tell stories, they could be so much more. They could be works of art. And even the worst games could provide the best experiences. And so PlayStation 2 is one of my favorite systems of all time, and I will always treasure the memories I have. And that's why, regardless of how old PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games are, I go back and review them and play them. Because these experiences are worth it. And they're still worth preserving today. I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everybody.